Tonight on America in Black, a medical crisis disproportionately impacting Black Americans, costing life and limbs.
What is tragic is that you and I have twice or 3 times a higher chance of undergoing an amputation than white men.
But one doctor in the heart of Mississippi is trying to change the system. Wesley Lowery investigates the amputation epidemic in Black America.
We spend a lot of money on amputations, but less money on preventative strategies.
And the result is that people lose their limbs.
And
I recognized that there was so much trauma that I had held on to for the last 30 years that I was ready to release it.
we know Gabrielle Union as the actor, producer, wife, and mom who is not afraid to bring it on with some hard truths.
How did you find grace and then give that to yourself?
I never offered myself any grace.
The Being Mary Jane star opens up to CBS Morning's co-host Nate Burleson about redefining herself after 50 as she embarks on a life-changing trip to Africa.
I'm experiencing everything almost like for the first time.
Plus,
I'm Henry Louis Gates Jr. Welcome to Finding Your Roots.
many know Henry Louis Gates Jr. as the scholar who helps people find their family histories. But this academic, author, and documentarian has a rich and complex story of his own.
My personality was shaped as profoundly by growing up in the mountains, being a country kid.
Historian and Harvard professor Skip Gates talks to CBS News special correspondent James Brown about his legacy and the future of education.
Censorship is to knowledge as lynching is to justice, pure and simple.
And later,
what do black people even eat for Juneteenth? There's no Juneteenth carols. What do we even wear?
Roy Wood Jr. drops the mic on how to celebrate Juneteenth. All this and more tonight on America in Black.
I'm Wesley Lowery. Thank you for joining us. We want to begin tonight's show with the story of a medical crisis impacting far too many Black Americans across the country. Perhaps someone you know. We've collaborated with the nonprofit news organization ProPublica to shine a light on the Black amputation epidemic. Black Americans are 2 to 3 times more likely to receive a major amputation than white Americans. And in the heart of the Mississippi Delta, one doctor is single-handedly trying to reverse that trend, saving not just limbs, but also lives.
High blood pressure, high cholesterol. I need to see what's going on with this patient.
Every time a patient comes to see Dr. Foluso Fakarede, it's potentially a matter of life and death.
I need those labs. Can you draw how quickly can I get her results?
I'm a heart and vascular specialist.
What's that mean in layman's terms?
Layman's terms is I'm a plumber that goes in and opens up blocked arteries in the heart and in the lower extremities.
He's battling what he calls a growing epidemic of preventable amputations among Black Americans. And too often, by the time patients like 54-year-old Jarrett Brown make it to his clinic, it's already too late. Brown had spent 30 years battling diabetes, and in recent months, her toes had become infected.
Okay. You went to Greenwood.
Yes.
And what did the doctor say?
He said, I've got to cut the foot off. I said, for what? You got a wound on your foot.
Yeah.
When he got infected, he cut him off.
They just chopped it off.
He just chopped it off.
If anyone ever says they want to chop off your leg ever again, you call me first. You do not let anyone cut on you. You hear me?
I got you covered. I got you covered. I will do that.
Dr. Fakarede says he sees far too many patients like this. Black Americans who suffer from high rates of diabetes, high blood pressure, and clogged arteries. As a result, wounds on their feet and legs don't heal and lead to infections.
Regular breathing, regular breathing. When you're born with clean pipes. And when you start having certain behaviors as you get older, guess what? It starts narrowing and you start developing plaque.
But instead of undertaking efforts to restore blood flow, studies show that doctors disproportionately recommend that their Black patients undergo amputations, a drastic, irreversible step.
What is tragic is that you and I have twice or 3 times a higher chance of undergoing an amputation than 2 white men.
If you or I walk into a hospital, to a doctor's office, there's a better chance that this doctor or health practitioner is going to suggest we chop off a leg.
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, there's structural racism in our healthcare system.
Growing up in Nigeria, Dr. Fakarede never dreamed of becoming an activist. He simply wanted to be a doctor and follow in the footsteps of his mother, who was a nurse.
When I was 5 years old, I just thought you'll just have a nice title and a white coat. I thought that I'll be somewhere in the Northeast and practicing in a large practice.
Instead, Faccarete ended up down south. He was working in Jackson, Tennessee, when he took an eye-opening trip to Mississippi.
I saw despair. You walk into a Walmart or Kroger, and you see a 50-year-old or 40-year-old male or female with a walker and a tennis ball and no limbs.
So Dr. Faccarete opened a clinic where he provides medical interventions, opening arteries, restoring blood flow, and hopefully preventing amputations.
You're going to be happy with this. So you had that 98% blockage in that stent, open that up. You had another 70% blockage up here, we open that up. So everything is opened. Congratulations.
But more often than not, there's little he can do to save his patient's limbs.
Unfortunately, by the time a patient hits my doorstep, it's usually too late.
60-year-old Elmer Turner is a diabetic with high blood pressure who has spent his entire life here in the Delta. Through surgery, Dr. Faccarete was able to fix the poor circulation in his left leg, but the insurance company wouldn't pay for a similar operation on his right leg. They said he hadn't proven a medical need and suggested that instead, Turner try lifestyle changes, like exercising and quitting smoking.
He went to another hospital, which is about 2 hours from here, and the surgeons amputated his leg.
I still look at my leg and wonder, just, my leg is gone. Sometimes I forget. I have fallen out of the bed, getting up thinking I can walk. So it's been kind of rough.
It's no coincidence that Cleveland, Mississippi is ground zero for the black amputation crisis. Cotton plantations and slave labor once made Mississippi one of the richest states in America. But in the decades that followed emancipation, it became one of the poorest. By 1960, 75% of families living in the Delta were living below the poverty line. Today, it remains one of the poorest places with some of the worst health outcomes in the nation. Activist Fannie Lou Hamer lived and died in this area, and what she told CBS News in 1968 could just as easily be said today.
See, Mississippi is not actually Mississippi's problem. Mississippi is America's problem. Because if America wanted to do something about what has been going on in Mississippi, it could have stopped by now.
When people watch a segment from a place like Cleveland, Mississippi, it might be easy to say, well, that's a poor Mississippi problem, that's a rural issue. Well, I don't live out there.
Yeah.
Is this just a problem out here?
Absolutely not. If you're in Washington, D.C. today watching this, yes. If you are in Los Angeles watching this, same thing applies. We have a system, again, that is designed to get the results it gets. We spend a lot of money on amputations, but less money on preventative strategies to prevent those amputations like diabetes.
And the result is that people lose their limbs and then lose their lives.
Lose their lives. It's a death sentence.
3 years ago, Denise Harvey was a 47-year-old prison guard who hoped to one day become an attorney. Fluid from her dialysis had leaked into her legs, causing an infection. Harvey had spent years in a doctor's care, but Dr. Faccarete said basic steps had not been taken to treat her underlying health conditions. By the time she made it to him, she had to undergo a double amputation.
There was no choice. Dr. Faccarete told me, Denise, maybe if you was 2 weeks, 1 week earlier, maybe I could help you.
What's that like to tell someone they're losing both of their legs?
It's like telling your sister they're losing both of their legs. It's the most tragic story that I've seen in my career.
Why?
Because she is an example of what we're going to start seeing now that we have failed to control diabetes. Younger patients coming into our clinics who have aspirations, goals, hopes, dreams.
How has having the double amputation changed your life?
Ooh, there's a lot of things I can't do. There's a lot of things I can't do. Can't drive anymore. I can't just get up out of bed. It has really changed my life. I don't wish this on no one. No one.
Now she can't work her old job as a prison guard. She can't dance in the living room to Anita Baker or play basketball at a local court. Even mundane tasks like bathing and getting dressed require help. Denise's 13-year-old daughter, Jamerica, is her primary caretaker.
I wash her up, I iron her clothes for dialysis, pants, do her pants, fold her clothes. At first, it was shocking, but I know if she wouldn't have got her legs amputated, she wouldn't be here right now.
The danger with amputations is that they treat just a symptom, not the medical issues at the root of someone's health problems. Studies show that 65% of people who undergo a major amputation will die within 5 years of the surgery.
Does that scare you?
I feel good, but you know they say you feel good enough to die. As well as you feel, you know.
Dr. Faccarete says there have to be fundamental shifts in American healthcare. First, Medicare and Medicaid need to pay for screenings that would catch vascular issues early enough that limbs can be saved. He and others have advocated legislation that would usher in these changes, but so far there's been no movement in Washington.
How much sugar do I have in this RC? How much of this should I have? Half of it, right?
That's why Dr. Faccarete has committed to community outreach events like this one. He says healthcare providers need to conduct more vascular screenings, and patients need to learn to ask for them.
Can I make an appointment now?
You want to walk with me? I'm going to answer all your questions. For a black man who lives in Tunica, Mississippi, the life expectancy is 68 years old in America that has one of the wealthiest healthcare systems. That, to me, is unacceptable.
Remember Jarrett Brown, the patient who visited with Dr. Faccarete back in February after several of her toes had been amputated?
Did you have a wound on it?
I didn't have no wound on it at first.
Did you ever shoot dye down your legs? Did you ever check the circulation of your legs?
No, sir.
They just chopped it off?
He just chopped it off.
You've been through a lot. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Like so many others, her hourglass had already been flipped by the time she found the doctor. Less than 2 weeks after we met her, Brown died.
This crisis is only going to get worse.
Yes, absolutely. We have not done anything to improve the risk factors that led to these amputation rates. And so the question becomes why?
Coming up next, finding your roots at 50. Star Gabrielle Union travels to Africa with husband Dwayne Wade to celebrate a milestone birthday. She opens up to Nate Burleson about her journey of self-discovery. When America in Black continues in a moment.
Welcome back to America in Black. I'm CBS Mornings co-host Nate Burleson. She's a producer, best-selling author, and actor known for her dynamic performances across film and television. I'm talking about Gabrielle Union, one of Hollywood's most versatile and captivating leading ladies. After more than 20 years in the industry, Union recently celebrated her 50th birthday and traveled back to Africa to connect with her roots. I recently caught up with Gabrielle to talk about her journey to 50 and what it means for her and other Black women to fully embrace their past, present, and future.
It's nice. I want to walk with music.
I've been going through a lot of spiritual, emotional, soul shifts in the last year and a half. And I recognized that there was so much trauma that I had held on to for the last 30 years that I was ready to release it. And I was ready to embrace my full, authentic self. And there is nothing to me more calming and relaxing than being on the continent of Africa.
Gabrielle Union's journey to Africa began 50 years ago in Omaha, Nebraska. A middle child of 3, she sought the spotlight from the beginning. What did the 10-year-old version of you want to be when she grew up?
Definitely wanted to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader.
Okay.
And when certain things didn't grow I realized perhaps dancing is not something someone would pay me for. My older sister wanted to be an attorney, and I decided, me too.
Union also studied to become an attorney until she realized the law wasn't for her. It was actually an internship at a modeling agency that led her to Hollywood.
My internship ended. The man I was interning for, he was like, a couple clients came in and thought you were one of the models and was asking about you. And I auditioned for Saved by the Bell, the new class, and I got it.
It would be the first of many roles Union would land throughout the mid-90s, from Sister Sister.
Call you later, we'll go shopping.
To best friend to mean girl Taylor Vaughn in the now cult classic She's All That.
God, I hope that's not your acceptance speech.
Until she got her big break in Bring It On. What is it like that, 23 years later, this movie still sits in the hearts of people that have watched it? Like it was just released yesterday.
It feels great. We had such a good time filming that movie. So to have that kind of experience, to create something that has become iconic, that is way larger than us.
Oh, yeah, we bad.
That talks about cultural appropriation, Black and brown girls winning off of their own labor, and everyone's still celebrating this. And I definitely wish I would have fought harder for ISIS to be a more fierce leader.
Why do you say that?
So it's like I took her, as far as I thought was reasonable, but I didn't take her to where she needed to go to deliver the harder truth.
I got you.
That people actually need to hear. So there is immediate behavior modification in the moment.
Yeah.
So it does feel great, but at the same time, I was like, damn, I had an opportunity. I wish I had gone further.
But amid that early success would come hardship. There's a high, and then shortly thereafter, you have said rock bottom hits. Why did you describe it as rock bottom?
It was November of 2005. The show I loved, and I'm still mourning our cancellation, the show called Night Stalker with Stuart Townsend.
They even have a nice juicy motive.
Which is?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Yeah, I would. And I intend to.
I finally found something that's feeding my soul, and I love my coworkers, and I love the crew, but my marriage was falling apart. And because it should have never been put together to begin with. And it was just all these things all at once, and I was like, I don't think I can get any lower.
But you bounced back, though. Did you ever?
How do you forget about a wife?
Union didn't just bounce back. At 40 years old, she landed a role that would eventually become BET's highest-rated drama series, Being Mary Jane, as both producer and lead actor. And you said this role was one of your favorites. Why?
I love Mary Jane. Like, you don't always love every character. Sometimes the bills are due. But this is something that I loved. I loved everything about that character and getting to work with amazing writers and a cast that became family.
There are some parallels between this character and you. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Sometimes being resentful of success and the responsibilities that are added. When life's.
Should I let them in?
And it's written into the show, it's hard enough to experience it in real life.
Yeah, I'm gonna let him in. He spends a lot of money on his wife.
To relive certain things on screen, and then to have to do press about it. And it gives people an opening to talk about your real life and not the character. And then there is no difference between Mary Jane and me. And that hurts because people have a lot of opinions.
In the show and in real life, Union's journey to motherhood was complicated. You've been so honest about your life, and you've talked about your struggles becoming a mom. You mentioned 9 miscarriages, I believe it was?
Yeah.
At least. How did you find grace and then give that to yourself in one of the most intimate moments a woman can have?
No, I didn't. I never offered myself any grace. And so by the time the miscarriages were stacking up and my body is like shutting down and it's damaging our marriage, and my lack of kindness for myself is the thing that's standing in the way of my dreams. So Dwayne was like, we had 3 embryos left. We can have a family. We will need a surrogate. Or is this about you proving something to yourself that is really not rooted in being a mother? I had to figure out how to give myself grace and be like, you are a mother.
Yes.
She's here, and she needs a mother.
Along with raising her daughter Kavia, her 2 stepsons and nephew, Xavier, Zaire, and Davion, Gabrielle Union and Dwayne Wade are also raising a transgender daughter. In 2020, Dwayne Wade announced publicly that Zaya came out as trans.
For those that might be raising a trans daughter or a trans son, what would be your advice? Because I see how involved you are in Zaya's life.
I would say never lose sight of those dreams that you had for them when they were born. They weren't gendered dreams.
You're right, those dreams weren't gender specific.
They weren't gender specific, and they don't need to be gender specific now. And our ideas of gender are ours. And if your child has a different idea, it's okay. I promise you their soul is the same. It does take some getting used to. It's different, just like anything, right? But those are your babies.
Gabrielle Union is now 50 years old and marking the milestone with friends and family on a recent trip to Africa. Documented in the BET Plus original series, Gabrielle Union, My Journey to 50.
What was the inception behind this idea?
When my feet touch the soil, whether I am in Namibia or South Africa, Tanzania, Egypt, there's something about the land that allows me to breathe different.
Really?
I've been all over the continent so many times, but for my 50th, I knew I needed to be in Africa, and I wanted to bring folks who I love and who love me back.
So for our naming ceremony today, we have chosen and we want to give some icon names for some of our guests.
And there was a renaming ceremony?
Yes, yes.
How did that feel?
It felt like I was Rip Van Winkle and I was returning home.
Gabrielle, I'll start with you. Akosia Safwa.
Akosia Safwa.
So Gabrielle, we'd like to adorn you with some traditional fabrics as well. So Safwa is connected to the root word safe, which is key. It's the person that opens up things for everybody else.
And things felt familiar, but new also. And I just felt like I've been returned home.
Open doors, darling, open doors. Open doors. Yes. Here is our queen.
And better, a way better version of myself. And a version that I am proud of and I am in awe of sometimes.
This fort was built when the slave trade was at its height. And over 350 million Africans live outside of the African continent. And the majority of them are outside because of what happened in these institutes.
There, where we were ripped from the land, I come arms open and wanting to openly give love and openly receive love from our people and help be the bridge in the diaspora and help all African peoples know that together, when we are united, when we understand colonialism and what got dropped into us, imagine.
It's powerful.
It's powerful, and that's what I wanted for everyone.
Yeah.
And getting my name, that's like step 1 of my superhero origin story.
Coming up next, high-profile professor Henry Louis Gates Jr. sits down with James Brown to talk about his PBS series Finding Your Roots, his legacy, and the debate over critical race theory and education. When America in Black continues in a moment.
Welcome back to America in Black. I'm CBS News Special Correspondent James Brown. Perhaps no one has done more to inform Americans of their past and in turn their future than Henry Louis Gates Jr. Gates is a uniquely brilliant academic who has written or edited nearly 40 books and produced over 60 hours of films about the African-American experience. Skip, as he is known to his friends, is a modern combination of W.E.B. Du Bois, Carter G. Woodson, and Oscar Micheaux. A scholar, historian, and filmmaker whose dedication to telling the story of Black people is simply unparalleled.
I'm Henry Louis Gates Jr. Welcome to Finding Your Roots.
You may know him as the host of Finding Your Roots.
Was your ancestor.
where for the past 9 years, to an audience of nearly 2 million people, he uncovers the history of prominent personalities and influential figures. The tenderness.
So now these are happy tears.
Would you please read where your ancestors were born?
Oh my God.
And tragedy.
That breaks my heart.
Pharrell, you're looking at the man who owned your ancestors.
Arguably, no one has done more to inform America of its complicated and diverse past than Henry Louis Gates Jr. Does it bother you in the slightest that you're known more for what you do in filmmaking than what you've done in academia?
I have 60 honorary degrees. I didn't get those.
6-0.
Right. I didn't get those from making films.
This is just wonderful.
Indeed, Gates is first and foremost an academic star.
No handwritten manuscripts.
A university professor and head of the prestigious Hutchins Center for African and African American Research at Harvard, and is known by his nickname. How in the world did you get the name that everyone calls you, Skip?
My mother was reading a novel, and the character was named Skip.
And that's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Skip's roots are a well-defined history of free Black people dating back to before the Civil War, and they run deep in rural America.
I was born in Piedmont, West Virginia, an Irish-Italian paper mill town located in the Allegheny Mountains. My personality was shaped as profoundly by being a country kid.
How so?
It was just part of my life, learning the names of plants and trees and leaves.
His father worked at the local paper mill and as a janitor at night, while his mother was a seamstress. Gates said he did not experience overt racism growing up in West Virginia. But the same can't be said for his brother Paul, who is 5 years older. In 8th grade, Paul took a statewide history test called the Golden Horseshoe and was told that he misspelled a word and lost.
One of my father's best white friend one day came to the house, and when he left, they told us that my brother had been cheated because if you won the Golden Horseshoe, you went to the state capital, Charleston, and you had to stay in the Daniel Boone Hotel. The Daniel Boone Hotel was not integrated. They were not going to integrate it for Paul Edward Gates, and he was cheated of that.
Years later, Skip wrote a letter to then Governor of West Virginia, J. Rockefeller, asking him to correct the record and acknowledge the rightful winner, his brother. And he did.
My phone rang, and it was my brother. And he just said, "Thank you." And I find that just, it's deeply moving to me because what kind of person would do that to an eighth grader? What kind of person would do that, man? One of the most pernicious aspects of racism is the tiny, particular way that it attacked self-esteem and self-confidence. Having this evil thing corrected, well, it certainly made it better for my brother, but it didn't erase those years of pain.
Education was always the priority in the Gates household. And as the brothers excelled in school, their future careers and lives were already set for them.
So there was never a question that my brother and I were going to go to college. And there never was a question about what we were going to study. We were raised to be medical doctors.
And so Skip headed off to Yale with the notion of becoming a doctor. But all of that changed in 1973 when he won a scholarship to Cambridge University in England and became friends with two fellow students, future Nobel Literature Laureate Wale Soyinka and Kwame Anthony Appiah.
They took me out to dinner, the first Indian meal I ever had. They said, "You know, we brought you here for a reason." I go, "What?" They said, "We're from the future, and you're never going to be a doctor. You are going to be a professor of African and African American literature, and you're going to go back and change the course of the field." And you know what I did? I looked at them and I started to cry.
Struck a chord.
They named my deepest, most submerged inner ambition.
We basically told him that he was destined to be a scholar.
Kwame Anthony Appiah is a renowned philosopher and scholar in his own right. He saw Skip's brilliance immediately back then.
He has this deep passion for the history of black people, and we thought that he had in him the capacity for great work in the field of black studies, and so we urged him to do that.
He listened to his friend's advice and earned a PhD in English literature from Cambridge and began a career in academia, and has since been at Harvard for the last 30 years.
I would describe him as brilliant.
Larry Bacow is the president of Harvard University.
He made Harvard the center for African American studies in the world, and he did it by ensuring that the scholarship that was done in his area was superior to the scholarship that was done elsewhere.
He built what he called the dream team of academia, and just one look at the walls of Gates' Harvard office shows the level of scholarship and influence the boy from Piedmont now has. He has become a celebrity in his own right, winning a Peabody and Emmy for his work. But with his fame has come some controversy.
Ben Affleck is apologizing for asking that PBS leave out part of his family tree in an episode of the series Finding Your Roots.
In 2015, Dr. Gates acknowledged giving in to Ben Affleck's request to hide that his ancestors were slave owners. Gates apologized. The show went on a brief hiatus and returned with a stronger editorial policy. And in 2008, there was his other, more sensational moment.
A 58-year-old black man was arrested at his own home by police looking for a suspected robber. The story grabbed national headlines because the man in question is one of the nation's most prominent African-American scholars.
In 2009, he was arrested for disorderly conduct after being falsely accused of breaking into his own home. The charges were dropped, but it stirred such a national discourse on race.
I don't know, not having been there and not seeing all the facts, what role race played in that.
The then President Barack Obama invited Gates and the arresting officer to the White House for what was called the Beer Summit. Gates says that he and the officer later had their own private summit.
I called him, and we sat down, and he reached down, and he put something on the table, and it was the handcuffs that he'd used to arrest me. And those handcuffs are on the wall in the exhibit about my arrest at the National African American Museum.
When he's not on set, lecturing across the country, or teaching at Harvard, you can find Dr. Gates at a very special place every summer, Martha's Vineyard, where he is known for something different here.
All right, I'm gonna try my best, Doc.
You got it.
Riding his three-wheeled bicycle.
I ride 8 miles every day with my trainer on the bike paths on Martha's Vineyard. And that's why I have this Charles Atlas-like physique.
So, Doc, about 40 years on the vineyard?
So I came down in the summer of '81, fell in love with it, and I've been coming down ever since.
And what is the attraction?
I call it our very own fantasy island.
We spoke with him overlooking the Inkwell Beach in Oak Bluffs.
What is this? Give me the history here.
There were only 3 places on the East Coast where black people could congregate at a resort area. One was in Maryland, one was Sag Harbor on Long Island, and the third was Martha's Vineyard. And within Martha's Vineyard, it was here in Oak Bluffs, and more particularly within Oak Bluffs, there was a section of the beach where all black people congregated, and it was nicknamed the Inkwell, because if you looked at it from a helicopter, all the black bodies in the water looked like somebody had spilled a bottle of ink. And we've taken that on with pride.
With his finger on the racial pulse of America, at age 72, Dr. Gates continues to be a champion of history.
It's a boiling time in America, and not just because of climate change.
What is your reaction to what appears to be a very politicized issue associated with teaching African American history in schools today?
Censorship is to knowledge as lynching is to justice. Pure and simple. I'll quote another writer who's...
Dr. Gates continues to pioneer ways to place Black people into the history of America, from the Africana Encyclopedia in 1997 to the African American English Dictionary to be released in 2025. He tells their story day by day, book by book, film by film, lecture by lecture, while adding more honorary degrees.
Henry Louis Gates.
Last year, the three men who planned the future of African American studies over 50 years ago returned to England and received honorary degrees from Cambridge University, a historical first.
I think Skip's had a huge impact in a way that very, very few scholars do. He's enriched American understandings of African American life and of issues. I don't think of anybody else really comparable.
I have so much to be thankful for, and that means a big responsibility to my people, the African American people, and I love it. And until I drop, I'm going to keep doing it.
Coming up next, Roy Wood Jr. drops the mic on Juneteenth, when America in Black continues in a moment.
Hey, it's Roy Wood Jr. It is the month of June, home of Pride Month, Father's Day, Flag Day, and of course, Juneteenth. Now, I'm from Alabama, and I gotta be honest, I knew about Juneteenth growing up, but it wasn't as big of a holiday then as it is now. It didn't carry the same gravitas as MLK or Easter Sunday. I never got fitted for a Juneteenth seersucker suit. But now, Juneteenth is mainstream. And by mainstream, I mean it's a holiday that major corporations are willing to observe in the hopes that it'll fool Black people into thinking we have racial equality and we don't need reparations. Use a lie. But with new holidays comes the need to celebrate. And to celebrate, you gotta throw a party, right? Yeah, and you can't have a party without party favors. And where you gonna get the party favors? The store. And that's where the problems start. There have been some growing pains, to say the least, when it comes to how retail stores engage Black people around this holiday. There's been Juneteenth ice cream, Juneteenth napkins that say, it's the freedom for me. And there was that time that Target set up a Juneteenth display and there was hot sauce and watermelon on the table. Solid choices, but still, don't do that. Major corporations, this is the issue. Still don't do that. Here's the issue. Major corporations don't really know how to market Juneteenth to us because truthfully, we haven't decided how to do it yet ourselves. And maybe that's the whole point of Juneteenth. There shouldn't be one way to celebrate it because there isn't one way to just be Black. This ain't Thanksgiving or 4th of July. Food holidays are easy for stores to market. You put some beer and some hot dogs on the table, decorate it, and people buy it. But what do Black people even eat for Juneteenth? You don't know. We don't know. There's no Juneteenth carols. What do we even wear? We don't know yet. Hell, we ain't even decided if we coming in to work or not for Juneteenth. Now, thank you to the corporations that are letting employees off for Juneteenth, though. If I'm being honest, I kinda think that only Black people should get Juneteenth off from work. But corporations, please, just calm down. If you really want to show unity with Black folks, hire us, promote us, invest in our communities, and most importantly, make sure we get June 19th off. Does BET give us June 19th off? Let me go talk to Mr. BET real quick.
Coming up next month, an America in Black exclusive. Confronting the Black maternal mortality crisis, Vice President Kamala Harris is pushing for change to save lives.
College-educated Black women have higher rates of risk than white women who have not graduated high school. Let's confront the harsh, uncomfortable reality of this. It is literally about the issue of race.
Danya Bacchus has our exclusive interview with the Vice President. And
this is your hour.
He is perhaps the most popular religious leader in America. Renowned Bishop T.D. Jakes sits with Ed Gordon to discuss his new groundbreaking billion-dollar initiative aimed at helping the Black community. Plus, he is one of the most in-demand artists in the world. who uses his work to confront white supremacy. Artist Kehinde Wiley shares his vision of Black art with Michelle Miller. Plus, the rising stars of Afrobeats talk about how the hot music genre has taken the world by storm. All of that and more on the next episode of America in Black.